Hi, welcome to day one, take 4 million. I wanted to post this a bit earlier, but I'm really bad at technology, so here we are. As long as I get it up today, I'm happy. I've achieved my goal. I wanted day one to be all about introductions, and my name is Denise Olson. I know there are a lot of people on here that I've never met before, which is so exciting, and welcome to my journey. I'm honored that you've decided to hop on, and I hope that something I say resonates with you. For those of you who have been following me for a while, that are in my everyday life, I want to just deep bow of gratitude because you have shaped me into the woman that I have become. So thank you all for being a part of this. I thought it would be kind of fun to start off with the reading of something that I wrote. I'm writing a book, and this is the introduction to the book. I don't know if the book will ever be finished, but if not, you get a sneak peek into it. And I believe it will lay a solid foundation for the next 11 days. It will give you some insight into how I perceive the world and the experiences that I've had. I see everything as a lesson and a blessing. So I am going to read that to you. But before I begin that, I want to give you a few words of warning. Number one, like I said, I suck at technology. I am literally speaking this into my iPhone, and if you hear my neighbors mowing their lawn or my dogs barking, just understand. Number two is that I curse a lot. I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum, but don't be offended. Number three is I have the gift of gab. I think I have to keep this under 15 minutes, so you might be saved by that. And lastly, very emotional, vulnerable material that we're going to be sharing, right? All of our stories are sacred. So if you feel yourself, I don't know, maybe getting weepy or feeling some sort of way, I don't want there to be any judgment or shame. I want us to show up exactly as who we are and not censor anything. I want it to be real and authentic. So let's just hold space for each other, okay? All right. So with that, I'm going to begin reading. Bear with me because I'm probably not going to be able to look at the screen at the same time. I will try. Oh gosh, this is going to be fun 11 days. Alrighty. The name of the book is Strong and Soulful, and when I get to the end of the reading, I think that you will have a clear understanding of why I've titled it that, why that's become the mantra of my life. I'm walking my dogs along our usual path. It is the end of September and local summer down here in our little Jersey Shore town. We take the road on the side of our house down towards the inlet of water known as Glimmerglass. We pass an empty field and a park along the way. The only sounds are crickets and the tap of my little pup's paws on the pavement. It is pre-dawn. This is my favorite time of day. The world is completely quiet. No birds are chirping, the squirrels aren't scurrying yet, the moon still hangs in the sky, while the sun begins to announce its grand entrance with the most beautiful shades of orange and pink against the blue-black horizon. Most people are still tucked in their beds. It's so peaceful. It wasn't always. I'm transported back to pre-dawn, Wednesday, September 12th, 2001. I'm wide awake. I've been awake all night. I'm filled with the feeling that I've never felt before, paralyzing fear. Something has a vice grip around my center, and not just the center of my body, but the center of my being. Breathing is painful. There's a lump in my throat that won't go away. I'm filled with this frenetic energy, a feeling of impending doom that I try to chase away with my thoughts, but like a child in a game of tag, it simply laughs at me and runs off in a different direction with me trying to keep up. starts with the dull, aching pain in my heart and pulses to the outer edges of my fingers and toes, over and over, every heartbeat echoing in my ears. My mind is creating scenarios, some unspeakable, some miraculous. None are true, but it continues on. Time is suspended. It is as if life has slammed on the brakes and I'm thrown from the car, floating, untethered, with the world flying by, bracing for impact. Yet, I'm sitting here on my front stoop, still and alone. The early morning air is chilly, but I don't care. I can barely feel it. I can hardly feel anything. I've never been so numb. How can I feel numb and experience so much at the same time? This is all uncharted territory. In hindsight, I understand that the safety mechanism had already begun to kick in, the part of our biology that lessens the pain of the impact when we are just about to crash. It's quiet, except for the explosion and collapse that is happening inside of me. The darkness feels like it will never end. This has been the longest night of my life. And then it happened. The day began to break. Slowly, the birds, one by one, began to chirp. The quote, "Time waits for no man," is what came to my mind in that moment. I couldn't believe the sun was rising so brilliantly, as if we hadn't just experienced the most devastating event of our lives. My thoughts again float back to the feeling of time being frozen, my life being in a suspended animation. I realized that for me, maybe it was, but the world would keep moving forward. The glimmer of hope that he was alive in that rubble was fanned like a flame by that first sunrise. It didn't seem so scary or so far-fetched in the daylight. It was the first lesson I learned after the attack on the World Trade Center. The sun always rises, no matter how dark the night. I was able to stand and pull it together enough to walk back inside where my 3 children slept. Their innocence kept them unaware of how much the trajectory of their lives was about to change. I didn't know at the time, but I had survived my first of what would be many nights alone as a 31-year-old widow. I am reminded of that night often because I purposefully rise now almost every day at that time to greet the sun. It gives me hope. It's a symbol to me that life is both tragic and beautiful, and where I put my attention is what I will see. Now, 19 years after losing my husband, I don't focus on the fear. I focus on what his life, this life, our life, has taught me. I focus on gratitude for having made it through and having successfully raised 3 healthy children. I focus on what I've learned, my truth. I think of the amazing community that has been built on the foundation of that pain. I wrap my heart and my mind around my story, and I'm grateful that rather than be stuck in it, I was moved by it. The painful burn of alchemy. My memory of the events surrounding 9/11 are scattered. Trauma is like that. It tucks away the most painful thoughts and memories in all the nooks and crannies of our bodies for safekeeping, but they aren't gone. Eventually, they find a way to make you look at them, whether it's in a dream, through a physical illness, being triggered by something totally unrelated. If you've ever suffered a traumatic experience or deep grief of any kind, which I'm sure almost every human being has, it's part of being alive, you can relate to what I'm saying. Mostly, what I remember comes to me in what I can best describe as snapshots. I get a quick vision of something accompanied by the story that I have attached to that moment, and the sunrise is one of those snapshots. This story is not only about being broken, it is about being broken open and growing into the best version of yourself. It is the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes pouring out when you're stripped down to your core. It's about learning who you are and what you bring to this world. It's about what you want to leave behind. It's my story, a love story that started with my husband, but turned into me loving myself. It's the most painful experience in my life thus far, and it's brought me the most power. I'm honored to have you join me. This story is real, but it's also my perception, and that's what matters most, how we see the events that we're experiencing. The perception will be different for all of us. The part that will remain the same is the fact that if you want to turn your pain into power, you need to know that all it takes is all you've got. Joseph Campbell called it the hero's journey for good reason. We can all be the heroes of our own lives. You simply need to be strong and soulful. So I think that gives you a really good idea of how I view all of the experiences in my life, not just 9/11, but everyday things, and the way that I'm trying to view exactly what's happening in the world right now as being maybe uncomfortable, but also bringing with it opportunities for tremendous amounts of growth. So I decided to do this because I do believe that my purpose in this life is to serve people. And I've done that in many capacities. I was a nurse for many years before 9/11. That's actually where I met Jeff. We were both working at St. Vincent's on Staten Island. He was not yet a firefighter. But after losing him, I had my hands full. I had 3 very young children. Vincent was 8, Tori was 3, and Noah was 18 months old. And all they knew was that their dad left for work and died and never came back to them. So I didn't want for them to worry about the same thing happening to me. Also, I needed to tend to my own pain. So while I was home, in those first few years, I tried multiple ways of healing. I went to therapy. I reached out to my religion. I worked out like a maniac. And all of those things had their place, but they felt very compartmentalized. Then I stumbled upon yoga. And when that happened, it felt as if it was all pulled together and my healing was just accelerated. After a few years of working on myself, I thought that it was time to share what I had learned. And serendipitously, I was led to work with our military through different nonprofits. And this is where I began to share my story. This is where I learned the power of being authentic, of sharing experiences, and using that almost like a lifeline for other people. So the first time I shared my story was in front of a group of combat seasoned veterans who were struggling with their own PTSD, and I cried like a baby, which was very uncomfortable for me. But as it turned out, they held my story as sacredly as I did, and it opened them up. It made them feel as if there was hope for them, that they would be able to heal, that they would be able to move out of their own grief. So that's what I'm hoping to do here. I'm hoping to create a community where we can all share our stories. So if you have any questions for me, if you want to share an experience that you've had, you can DM me, you can put it in the comments, anything that you want. But I want you to know that you are stronger than you think. Your story holds tremendous power. And it won't only change the way that people look at you, it will change the way people look at themselves. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that I'm going to be giving you little tools along the way that have helped me. And I think that we often listen to people speak, or we take classes, we try to take in all this information on how to heal, but the important part is integrating it into our being and practicing it. So every day I'm going to give you, I'm not going to call it an assignment, but I'm going to give you a tool, and I hope that you utilize it. Try to do it that day. So for today, I want you to go to bed early and try to get up and experience the sunrise. Just see how it feels to greet the day. 24 hours full of unlimited potential. Share that in the comments if you would like, or just feel it. And I will be back tomorrow to check in, hopefully a little earlier, but whenever it is, right? Divine timing. I believe in divine timing. So much love to all of you. Thank you for being patient with me and joining me today.